How's it going, guys? I'm Theo. I need an excuse to try out my fancy new motorized jib crane gadget for my camera, so here's an unnecessary side shot. Joe. And no matter how long you've had your phone, you might be surprised to learn that there are probably several ways that you're actually using it completely wrong. It's not your fault. A lot of these misconceptions are down to outdated information, how phones used to work, or just things that are not really anywhere in any user manual. So that's what we're going to go over today, 7 ways that you might be using your phone wrong. And yes, these will apply to both Android and iOS, so it doesn't really matter what phone you have. So to start off with number 1, the first thing you're probably doing wrong is closing out background apps that you think are running in the background and potentially slowing down your phone and to clear up RAM. But in reality, phones these days have much better RAM management than in the old days, so even if you bring up the app selector to show previously running apps, they're not actually running and stored in the RAM. The phone will actually manage the RAM so that it kind of gets stored on the flash memory and takes apps out of RAM if they're not being used in a while, and if it needs to reload them, it'll either reload the app completely or bring it out of the flash memory and put it back into RAM. So just going through your previous apps and swiping them all up to get rid of them is not actually freeing up any RAM, and it's more a waste of time, really. Because when Apple and Google design the operating system, they know how people are going to be using their phone, and they don't want to require people to have to go through old apps and swipe it up just to be able to make the phone usable and fast. So it does it all automatically. If the phone needs RAM, it will free it up itself. You can be rest assured of that. All right, next up, number 2, is many of you are probably not using fast chargers for your phone, or you're not aware that your phone is capable of fast charging, so you're just using any old charger that you have lying around or the one that came in the box, which is probably slower than what the phone is capable of charging with. For example, with Android phones, many of them are capable of what's called Qualcomm Quick Charge technology or USB Type-C power delivery, and if you have a charger that you specifically bought and it was advertised as having one of those two technologies and your phone supports it, it'll probably charge faster than just some average low wattage dongle that you have lying around that's not advertised as having any kind of quick charging. And this is especially the case with iPhones because a lot of people don't realize even since 2017, which is the iPhone 8, the iPhone has supported fast charging, faster than just the standard 5-watt charging. You can go up to like 18 watts or so. But even after the iPhone supported that fast charging, Apple kept including the tiny little slow 5-watt charger in iPhones, and it wasn't even until recently that Apple started putting in the faster 18-watt charger into any iPhone boxes, and that's only since last year, 2019, and only if you get the Pro version or Pro Max. So even if you get a most recent iPhone 11 and it's capable of fast charging, you're paying like $1,000 or something, you're still gonna get the tiny little 5-watt charger, and a lot of people just assume that that's the charger to use. They don't know that there's anything faster. Now, the iPhone does support higher wattage chargers from 18 watts, even up to 96 watts, which are used on like the laptops, but it does seem that it'll max out around 22 watts based on testing people have done. So if you use the 18 watt or like a 30 watt, that'll probably be the sweet spot if you want to get a faster charge on your iPhone. You might not have realized that. And if you're using Android, be sure to look up what your phone is capable of, whether it's quick charge, and there's several versions of quick charge like 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, or power delivery, and buy a charger that supports that technology, and you might be surprised that it charges faster. All right, moving on to number 3. This one might seem a little bit contradictory based on what I just talked about, but for people who do know about fast charging, one thing they might do wrong is always using fast charge, which can degrade the battery faster. Now, to be clear, using fast charging regularly even is not that big of a deal, and if you're impatient or you need to go somewhere quickly, using a fast charger is going to be completely fine. But just be aware, if you are using it like every single day and using it to charge your phone pretty much the entire way, then it could decrease the overall lifespan of your battery. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Batteries store energy with chemical reactions, so if you force it to make those chemical reactions go faster and more frequently back and forth, which causes more heat especially, then it could decrease its optimizations. The chemicals in there, I don't know, they might break down or they might get stuck, I don't know. But in any case, even charging a phone regularly, very frequently, can degrade the battery life over a long time. So using fast charger will just do it a little bit faster. So anyway, my point for this one is if you want to use a fast charger, that's fine, use it whenever you want. But if there's a case where you don't need it to be fast charging and you don't need your phone for several hours, then just use a slow charger. This is especially so at night. Don't use a fast charger all night where it's going to be charging large amounts every single day from the point where you go to bed, which the phone is probably at a low level, and max it out. You don't need your phone to be at 100% all night. Just use a slow charger. Or if you know you're going to be charging your phone for several hours, you're not going anywhere, again, use a slow charger. But don't feel bad about using a fast charger. All right, moving on to number 4. This is the last one having to do with batteries, don't worry. And that is, if you're going to store your phone away, like you get a new phone and you're just gonna put the old one away somewhere, don't charge it to 100%. Don't store your phone with 100% battery from the get-go long term. Remember how I said a battery stores energy with a chemical reaction? When it's at 100%, that means the chemical reaction is going to have the most potential. The electrons or the molecules, whatever, are going to be trying to get to the other side of the battery from the anode to the cathode. I forget which one. There's going to be more pressure, you could think of it, which is going to slightly degrade the battery if you go to turn it on later. And you don't have to take my word for it. Even on the official Apple support page, it does recommend storing a phone long term only at about 50% battery. So definitely don't charge it up to 100% and store it. It could potentially break down the efficiency of that battery if you ever go to use it again. All right, number 5. This one might be a little bit controversial, and you could argue it's just my personal preference, but I would say that you're using your phone camera wrong if you keep the flash on all the time, or even keep the flash on auto. For me, I would recommend using a flash on your phone only as an absolute last resort. And that's because you may realize this yourself, even in a dark environment, if you use a flash, it is gonna make the photo look like crap. It's gonna have harsh shadows on someone. It almost looks like one of those old instant cameras where it just blasts a bunch of light on you and everyone in the front looks iridescent and then the background looks super dark. And personally, I would rather have a slightly darker, even grainier photo with no flash than the look of the crappy smartphone flash look that you get if you use a flash even on auto. And this is even more the case with more recent smartphones having night mode type shots, where even if it is very dark, you can use the night mode on the camera and it will make it look almost like it is during the day, or even if it is at night, it'll look very good at night with low grain and stuff. So just avoid using the camera flash if you can. Even if it is, you think, pretty dark, try taking maybe 2 photos, one with the flash and one that might be dark, and try raising it up and just see which one you like better. And obviously there are exceptions. If I'm taking a photo of something that's not an artistic photo, it's just I want to remember what something looks like, yeah, I'll use the flash so it captures more information basically. Like if I'm taking a picture of a document, obviously you can use a flash because you don't care how nice it looks or whatever. I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, we got a couple more. We're up to number 6, but I do have a bonus one at the end, so stick around. So number 6, one thing people do wrong is either ignore updates or put them off, or just not update immediately after an update is available. When it comes to smartphones, most of the updates throughout the year are little bug fixes or security updates that are pretty significant. And it's very important, especially for the security side of it, to keep your phone extremely up to date, because a lot of times when these updates are released, that's the time when hackers jump into action, try to look at the bug fix and take advantage of phones for people who have not updated. And you probably realize, especially with Android phones, by the time you get a notification on your phone that there's an update available, it's probably already been available for several days, but your phone doesn't immediately ask you to check for updates. So you should definitely, as soon as you get a notification to update, do it right away, because you're probably already late. And this is especially the case with Android, where a lot of times the actual carrier, like Verizon, AT&T, they basically determine when you get the Android update, which might be months after the actual release, which is kind of disgraceful in my opinion. At least with iOS, Apple pushes out the updates and most people do update their iPhone. Now, obviously, you could make a slight exception for major revisions, like going from iOS 12 to 13 or going from Android 9 to 10, where you could make the argument that you want to wait a couple weeks to make sure there's no major bugs in the new version. But in the case of the smaller updates throughout the year, there's really no excuse. And again, you should just update as soon as you can. Don't put off these updates. Really, you should be updating the same day that you get the notification. Okay, we're up to number 7, which is not restarting your phone every once in a while. Now, with computers, and phones are basically just small computers, the common wisdom of just restarting a computer to fix most of the problems is actually true. And phones are really no different. If your phone starts to act weird every once in a while, or it starts to lag, or just in general general runs slower than you like, just restart it maybe once a week, and then you can keep on top of it. Now, I should point out this is not completely necessary, because obviously phone manufacturers and like Apple and Google, when they're designing the operating system, they understand that most people are not going to be restarting their phone every single day, obviously. But at least one manufacturer, which is Samsung, a major one, has built in actually an auto restart feature into their version of the Android operating system that allows you to restart a phone every X number of days. And even if you look at their official support page for this feature, I wouldn't go so far as to say they recommend doing it, but it does say, a smartphone can be seen as a small computer that fits in your pocket. Optimize your device by restarting it automatically at set times. Any unsaved data will be lost, but restarting your mobile device once a week will also free up RAM and allow your device's performance to go back to optimal. So at least Samsung does sound like they're kind of recommending doing this if you want, or at least if you have any issues. It wouldn't be a bad idea to just try restarting your phone maybe once every Sunday. Remember to put that on your schedule and see if your phone performs better during the week, and then you can keep doing it. All right, so those were the 7, but I do have a bonus one, which is not replacing your battery if it degrades. If you've had your phone for several years and you find that it does not hold a charge nearly as long as it used to, it's probably just that the battery has degraded over time. It happens to every single battery, and you might not realize that you can go and get your battery replaced in your phone. It's probably not that expensive as you might think. And if you have an iPhone at least, you can actually go into the battery settings and check the battery health, which will tell you what capacity your phone is at compared to when you first got it. So if it's below, like, I don't know, 85 or 80%, then you might find it worth it to actually go to the Apple Store and have it replaced. And it's not that expensive. You can see on the Apple page for an iPhone X or later, it's about $70 to replace it, and it's only about $50 for an iPhone 8 or earlier. And you can either send it in, which obviously might take a couple days, or you could take it to an Apple Store and they can replace it in a couple hours. And for certain phones, I believe like with Samsung, places like Best Buy will also do battery replacements for a fee, obviously. But if you're someone who keeps your phone for several years and you've had it for 3 years, but you don't want to buy a new $1,000 phone, but your phone doesn't keep a charge, then it's probably way more worth it to get maybe a $70 battery replacement than go and buy a whole new phone. And then it'll probably work even better in terms of performance and battery life, because the phone will be able to draw a more consistent charge. So definitely try to get a battery replacement if you think you need one. So hopefully you guys found those helpful. If you guys want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one I just made recently, talking about a bunch of different cool apps for both Android and iOS that are definitely worth checking out. So you can just click on that link right there. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.